My dear students, Assalamu alaikum. You are most welcome to my new lecture. For the chapter of 6 from accounting first paper, SSC level. The chapter name is Accounting for Receivables. Dear students, you know I have already completed the 3 lectures for this chapter. In first lecture I have discussed in full length for this chapter, and lecture number 2 and 3 already solved 2 creative questions in full length. I think you have understood in all lectures relating to this chapter. Dear learners, for covering our syllabus, we have to follow the different types of chapter from accounting first paper and accounting second paper. Now we are going to carry the chapter of 6, accounting for receivables. You know, this is the very easiest chapter in the accounting first paper. Dear learners, you are watching a new creative question for this chapter. You know, this is the lecture number 4. Question is given, or stem is given. Olive traders had allowance for bad debt Taka 9,000 on 1st January 2017. 2017 for January and 1st January, one allowance for bad debt is given. That is, the opening balance of bad debt provision is given 2017. That is old allowance for bad debt. During the year, 8,000 was written off as bad debt. Totally, Taka 8,000 was written off as bad debt. That is bad debt expense or uncollectible debt expense Taka 8,000. On 31st December 2017, the company's account receivable via Taka 80,000. It was estimated that 5% allowance for bad debt on accounts receivable. 5% allowance for bad debt on accounts receivable, that is the new allowance for bad debt or new provision for bad debt to be charged at the rate of 5% on debtors. Debtors amount Taka 80,000. During 2018, Taka 2,600 to be recorded as bad debt on 31st December 2018. It is indicated as to be recorded, that is unrecorded or unwritten bad debt. So it will be deducted from the account receivable for finding out or for calculating the new amount of allowance for bad debt. So maintain 5% allowance for bad debt on account receivable. Just for this entry, you can deduct the amount of 2,600 from accounts receivable, Taka 42,600. So at this moment, remaining debtors or account receivable Taka 40,000. So in new allowance 5%, that is 5% on 40,000. That is the Taka 2,000 for new allowance or new provision for bad debt. During 2019, Taka 2,200 was written as bad debt. Same entry recorded or written bad debt only Taka 2,200. It is already recorded. Accounts receivable were Taka 12,000. In this year, account receivable only Taka 12,000. Maintain 5% allowance for bad debt on account receivable. Just stems completed. From this stem, you have to complete the following requirements. Requirement A, show the amount of new allowance for bad debt and additional allowance for bad debt. This is the very important issue or very important topics. Mainly this is the workings, but in this system or in this math, this is the main requirement. Second requirement is prepare bad debt expense account. This is the ledger for bad debt expense. Requirement C, prepare allowance for bad debt, that is also for ledger. Optional, first the journal entries, but as a student you have to complete the journal entries, please, for knowing or for understanding, for recovering, for solving the creative question of this chapter. Okay, now you can go for solving the requirement A. In this math, totally 3 years journal entries to be completed, or 3 years calculation to be completed. Now, first requirement, new allowance and additional allowance calculation. You know, from the first year to last year, in the same level, all workings to be done. If this procedure is followed, then all creative question is solved very easily by a solution maker. So first 2017, new allowance for bad debt for 2017, 80,000 into 5%. That is the amount of taka 4,000 for new provision for bad debt. Now this is the target amount, taka 4,000. So you can start with the allowance for bad debt, or opening balance of provision for bad debt is given in the stem taka 9,000 for 2017. So allowance for doubtful debt on opening balance 9,000 less uncollectible debt, and that is bad debt taka 8,000. At this moment, remaining surplus allowance for doubtful debt is taka 1,000. I repeat again, this item is to be started with allowance for doubtful debt on provision for bad debt for opening amount less uncollectible debt 8,000, surplus amount 1,000. Now you can go for finding out the new allowance for bad debt, that is taka 4,000. So additional allowance amount taka 3,000 for 2017. And now you can go for new allowance for bad debt for 2018. New allowance for bad debt for 2018, 42,600 minus 2,600 into 5%. In this year, 2,600 is to be totally unrecorded, so it is recorded to debtors. So net debtors to be determined, that is 42,600 minus 2,600 is equal to taka 40,000. Now new allowance for bad debt in 2018, 40,000 into 5% is equal to taka 2,000 in this year, or in this creative question. Now you can start with the allowance for doubtful debt on 1/1/18, that is the opening balance. This opening balance is carried on from the last year, that is 2017, closing balance of allowance for doubtful debt, that is the amount of taka 4,000. So 4,000 less uncollectible debt. In this math in second year, totally uncollectible debt or bad debt taka 2,600. At this moment, surplus allowance, surplus amount or surplus allowance for doubtful debt taka 1,400. But your target is allowance for doubtful debt on 31st December, that is the amount of taka 20,000. So additional allowance amount taka 600 only. Additional allowance taka 600. But now go for 2019, new allowance for doubtful debt. New allowance for doubtful debt for 2019 minus sorry, new allowance for doubtful debt for 2019, 12,000 into 5%. It is given as account receivable 12,000 and new allowance for bad debt 5%. That is the amount of new allowance for bad debt for 2019 taka 600. Dear students, this amount is to be carried on for finding out the targeting amount. Allowance for doubtful debt on 1/1/19, that is opening balance of bad debt provision. Opening balance of bad debt provision, it is carried on from the previous year of new allowance 2000, so current year opening balance 2000. The same stays the same category, less uncollectible debt or bad debt 2200. 2000 minus 2200, that is the shortage of allowance taka 200. Shortage of allowance taka 230. Allowance for doubtful debt 1/1/19 2000, less uncollectible debt taka 2200, shortage of allowance taka 200. This is the negative amount, but your target is taka 600. So additional allowance to be taken for bad debt expense or uncollectible debt expense is taka 800. Dear students, this is the very important information for writing journal entries and posting ledger and other posting income statement and financial position information. Dear students, I think I have already completed the requirement. Dear students, now I can go for requirement B and C. B and C totally ledger account, but we can go for optional requirement. This is a journal entries. Totally 3 years to be completed for journal entries. You know, in each year only 3 journals are recorded. 2017 3 journal, 2018 totally 3 journals, 2019 totally 3 journals. The same journal is to be written in each year. The first journal is for 2017, allowance for bad debt account debit, account receivable credit for taka bad debt for the amount of uncollectible debt, that is taka 8,000 in debit and credit. Second journal is for 2017, bad debt expense debit, allowance for doubtful debt or bad debt provision credit. That is the amount of additional allowance taka 3,000 in debit and credit side to record additional amount of allowance for doubtful debt. Third journal is for 2017, income statement debit, bad debt expense credit to record transfer of uncollectible debt expense to income statement. And now you can go for 2018. The first journal is allowance for bad debt account debit, account receivable credit taka 2,600. Second journal is for 2018, bad debt expense debit, allowance for bad debt account or doubtful debt account credit for additional allowance amount is taka 600 for second journal. Dear learners, in 2018, the third journal is income statement debit, bad debt expense account credit for taka 600. In 2019, not 2012, sorry. In 2019, also for 3 journals to be recorded. The first journal is allowance for bad debt or provision for bad debt account debit, accounts receivable credit. To adjust uncollectible debt in this year, totally uncollectible debt amount taka 2,200. Second journal is bad debt expense debit, provision for bad debt or allowance for doubtful debt account credit. This is the amount of taka 800 for additional amount or additional allowance in debit and credit side. Third journal is income statement debit, bad debt expense credit for additional amount, that is the amount of taka 800. Dear students, journal entries is for optional, but we have already completed for your betterment and for knowing, for understanding the all journals are related to accounting for receivables. Now we can go for solving the requirement B and C with the help of optional requirement journal entries. Dear students, at first you can go requirement B for 3 years 2017, 18, 19. Totally two sides are available of bad debt expense account, debit side and credit side. In debit side only one posting to be written, that is last date of the year, allowance for bad debt or provision for bad debt for additional allowance taka 3000 for first year, that is 2017. In right side only one posting is recorded or is written, that is the income statement for taka 3000. This amount to be closed in each year. 2017 is completed. 2018 the same amount for allowance for bad debt taka 600. 2018 in right side, that is credit side, income statement taka 600 is equal and closed. 2019 is same level. In debit side you have to write allowance for bad debt or bad debt provision account for taka 800, that is additional allowance of amount for this year. And right side, that is credit side, income statement, you have to write for the excess amount or additional allowance for bad debt taka 800. This is the bad debt expense or bad debt ledger account. Dear students, I hope you are opened or you are solved in any ledger for helping the journal entries. Now we can go for requirement C, that is allowance for bad debt account. Allowance for bad debt account. Totally 3 years are completed in this account. In each year and every year, totally 4 postings are related in allowance for bad debt account or provision for bad debt account. In debit side, that is December 31 for account receivable. In debit side, December 31 for balance CD, that is closing balance of allowance for bad debt or provision for bad debt. In that side, first date of the year, that is opening balance is written as balance BD. And December 31 for bad debt expense. In 2017, in right side, balance BD is given in 2017 taka 9000, and new posting is available for bad debt expense taka 3000. Total of credit side is taka 12000, but in debit side only one posting for account receivable taka 8000. At this moment for 2017 balance CD, that is closing balance of 2017 taka 4000. So balance CD is to be treated as balance BD in next year, that is 2018. You can see in right side, that is credit side, balance BD 4000. In 2018 another posting is available, bad debt expense for taka 600. In right side or credit side, total amount of 2018 4600. In debit side only one posting for account receivable taka 2600. The missing amount of 2018, that is balance CD or closing balance of 2018 taka 2000. Always balance CD, that is closing balance. This closing balance is to be transferred to next year, that is 2019 as balance BD, that is opening balance of current year 2019 as balance BD taka 2000. In right side or credit side of 2019, bad debt expense account is transferred for taka 800. In credit side, total amount of 2018 2800. In debit side only one posting for account receivable taka 2200. At this moment for 2019, the missing amount of Taka 600 is to be indicated as balance CD, that is closing balance of allowance for bad debt account. Dear students, I think you have written in your accounting practice copy very attentively, and you have understood the lectures of accounting for receivables. I have already totally 4 lectures solved or given to your betterment for covering your syllabus for this chapter, that is bad debt and bad debt provision and account receivable related items. Dear students of class 11 and 12 business studies, you have to practice much and more, and you have to study very attentively for your future betterment. Please carry on your study very attentively. Thanks for being today. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.